Welcome back on the end mode. Today I want to propose you the unboxing and review about the White Dwarf October 2019 released by the Games Workshop. This is quite an amazing White Dwarf. I can anticipate you because I made yet a fast reading about it, and we can start to see about the cover itself that it's really quite amazing one, even if I show you quite soon the alternative one. It's better and it's a really quite amazing one. So now we can go to see the contents inside this White Dwarf itself. Here we can find the alternative cover that we can find better here, but in the last page we see better. Anyway, it's really amazing. Here we have the theme of the White Dwarf, and here a sort of introduction about the White Dwarf, and this is about how to relate to the timelines that you have for your project and so on. So I think that it's quite interesting in that way. So we can flip. Here we can find the contents inside that are quite a lot, as you can see. Then we can flip and we can start to see with the part about the mailing reader and the models of the readers themselves, that we can go to see a better view about now. And so now we can see, for example, here we can find some alternative scheme of colors that can be really quite interesting. This model is a bit alternative, so it has been a little modified. Here we can find the Blood Angels, and this that it's a conversion about a Primaris Gravis X armor model with the wings from the Sanguinary Guard. So it's quite interesting one as modifying. So we can see that with little things we can modify the lot. Here we can find, for example, if we go to see in the detail, something interesting, because we can see that are some little things. It's only painted, they are not modified as model, but what make it quite interesting, for example, for this sergeant, we can see the little details that has been written on the part, that even here we can find some little writing, and it's something that make it with really simple efforts a great personalizing view of the models. So I think that it's quite interesting to note some details inside these models too. Here we can find other models that are painted, quite nice, I think. So we can flip, and here we can find an article about Phil Kelly that talks about particular things that are related about the background for Age of Sigmar, and I think that it's really quite interesting to read, because there are a lot of things that you know, but there are also some things that can be really quite interesting as inspiration for the background and so on, and so I think that it's quite interesting. This is an example of more than 500 of these things that can be read eventually, so take a note about. You can see that are quite interesting. Here we can find the image about the cover that you can find before the White Dwarf itself, and it's related about Syll'Esske itself. So we can flip. Here we can find this, that it's an article about Jerry Johnson, how to treat the luck, I mean the throw dice that are unfavorable or so on. And here there are different ways to have behavior, to have the way to make understand how to control in some way the dice. So it's really quite interesting. I'm quite agree with this article. I think that it's quite simple as results, but I think that can be really quite interesting to read, to better understand sometimes how to relate with the opponent when you throw really bad dice. So it can be really quite interesting one. Here we can flip, and we can find a sort of, we can say, index Astartes, but about Age of Sigmar, and this is about Chaos and about Syll'Esske. In particular, a special, we can say, sort of sub-army, something, a sub-alliance that you can find here, and there are a lot of information here. Moreover, there are the background that it's really quite rich. It's mainly related about this character, and it's really quite detailed one, so it's really something that you'd like to read, even if you are interested only to know better. Even if you don't play the Slaanesh army, it can be really quite full of information of background, so I think that it's really quite interesting one. You can find really a lot. And then we have the part about the rules. These are official ones. We have also the points, so there is no problem about it. Here we have the battle traits, the alliances about, and here we have the different battalions, so it's really quite rich and really quite interesting to play eventually, so quite nice. Here we have how to play this specific model, that it's the main theme of this White Dwarf. So we can see different ways, and I think that it can be really quite interesting because, for example, the way to paint the purple, it's not always quite simple, so pay attention to how to do these little passages, can be really quite interesting one. Then we have a bit of background always about Age of Sigmar and Slaanesh, so it can be interesting also to make a complete part. So we had the army, the background of the army, we have the painting of the army, and then we have a fiction about the army itself, so quite interesting. Here we have about the realm of Heaven, so Azir, so we can find some information about Azir. We can find how to modify, how to paint the models for Azir in the theme of Azir itself, so it can be really quite interesting. Here we can find some modified models that are almost the same models, but with some little details. For example, this one has the base, this one also the base that has been modified in particular ways, this has been modified the position. So there are quite a lot of simple things. For example, this model can be really quite interesting because it's a mix of a Stormcast Prosecutor with another model that it's a mage, so it's really quite a great personalized model, I think, to understand better. Here instead we have a heavy personalized army about Seraphon, and it's really quite amazing. They go to suggest you also how there's been realized the different things, but if you go to see, you can find that this is something that combine really quite a lot of options. For example, it combine the Seraphon army with the Necron army. We can find, for example, if you go to see in the details, that here we can find that the body, it's a composition about the Immortals, or anyway, for example, the Triarch and Lichguard of the Necrons. For example, also here we can find these that are a combination of the Crossigor and the Morghast. So it's really quite interesting because it has been modified the part about the mace and so on, but it's really quite a lot of modifications. So there are really quite simple ones, but quite effective ones, and I think that they are really quite amazing as armies, so really quite good one. So we can flip, and here we can find an image about Warhammer 40k, because now it's time to talk about Warhammer 40k. Here there is an article related about Apocalypse, so how to play it and how and why has been made the Apocalypse version of the Warhammer 40k game. Here a fiction about Warhammer 40k that it's really quite interesting, and it's related about another army that it's presented in this White Dwarf, and it's about the Sisters of Silence, the daughters of the Emperor, we can call them. So we can find quite a lot of information, because after the fiction we have the Index Imperialis, so a sort of Index Astartes, the Index Imperialis in this case, that it's about the Sister of Silence with the informations about the background about the Sisters of Silence, quite a lot of ones, so it's quite interesting, with also the rules to play them, and they are official ones, and we have all the rules, so the units and the points, so complete one. I think that it's really quite amazing one. I not played it yet, but I think that it's really quite interesting. And here how to paint the sisters themselves. So you can find a lot of different options. What I like is this scheme of colors to paint this type of flesh that it's quite pallid, and it can be used also, for example, for vampires or witch elves or something others that it's quite a pallid one. So really quite interesting. And we can find also here another type of painting the purple. It's really quite interesting, I think, as option. Here we can find other colors or schemes for your Sisters of Silence, so really quite interesting. And here we can find instead a tale of 4 warlords. So we can find how they continue the part about personalizing each month the army that they chosen. Here about the Tyrannids. Here we can flip and we can find about the chaos with Abaddon. So quite an interesting army coming. Here about Nargol, and here about the Space Marines ones. So it can be quite interesting. I like a lot this little diorama that they created. Quite simple because the models has not been modified a lot, but the base that has been created around it's really quite awesome. Here we can find other option and other scheme of colors that has been used. So really simple color, but really effective one. I like a lot this way. Here we can find new rules about the Vanguard for the kill team. So it can be really quite interesting, and add a lot of rules for models of Primaris Space Marines for kill team. Really quite interesting. There are really quite a lot. Here instead we have how to modify the models, so quite a lot of simple modifications that can change the aspect about your models. We can find, for example, these final ones, really quite simple, only changing, for example, the position of the wrist or other options. If you see here, we can find that to try the positioning, they use a sort of Patafix. So I realized a video that I put in the description about the rules of the Patafix, and I think that it can be quite interesting because you can see that it can be used quite effortlessly to create, to try your models before you glue, so you can understand better how to realize and how to position in the parts of the models itself. Here we can find other different modifying and so on that has been realized, so quite a lot of nice suggestions also here, really few but really quite interesting ones. And here instead we have talking about Beastgrave and the how to play Beastgrave itself, so how to play Underworld, in this case the 3rd edition Beastgrave. Here we have 2 bands that are some of the most recent ones released. I remember you that I created a playlist about Underworld unboxings of some of the squads that I bought, so you can find also them in the description. There is the playlist about mainly for now related about the Greenwatch and Sepulchral Guard, so you have 2 different themes available eventually. Then we can flip and we can find here new rules about Blackstone Fortress. There are quite a lot each month on new rules of new battle plans and background that they give you with the weather. So if you are interested in this game, it's really quite a good adding. And here we have a challenge about the winners of the Golden Demon. So the winners of the Golden Demon that realize specific model for this contest, and it's related about the witch. So it's a really quite interesting one. This is really quite simple, so interesting, but not so much. I like a lot this one because it's quite simple, but it's really visibly quite interesting because it's been done really with simple efforts, but painted in an amazing way. Here we can find other options. For example, you can find here how the base can be really created and expanded a lot. We can see, for example, this that from this base expand and create a really great surface to use. So really quite interesting in such a way. Then we can find this that the base it's quite simple at the end, but the model has a better repositioning. So quite interesting. Here we can find, for example, the front of the emperor. Sincerely, I don't like a lot of this model because I think that it's not has been realized so good. The base of this model it's about an Nagash, because I recognize this part, and it's not bad. Not misunderstand me. Simply, I find that the background of the model is less, I think, better than the model of the emperor itself. I don't know, it doesn't attract me too much, but anyway, it's an amazing model. So you can understand that you can in some way cannibalize other models to personalize your one really in a great way. Here we have other options, and here we have the winner that it's about a Italian one, my Sin City painter, and it's really quite an amazing one. The background of this imaging it's quite interesting because there is a story behind it that I suggest you to read. But you can see the painting, and we can see how the bases gain volumetry. So what I like more in this diorama it's how it has been completely created and modified the volumes. So the volume expand and create other dimensions. So because we have this Singe Great Demon that it's going to exit from this portal. So you can see the movements, the different scenes that combine and create the story itself. Really quite amazing one. Angelo in this way it's been really quite amazing because really great. I really like this one. Here we have a bit of fiction about the Black Library with a sort of multiple ending about the history. So what you'll be lucky about the Flow of Dice and your ending? You can read and discover it eventually. Here we have a battle report about the Imperialist Aeronautica. So you can find the way also to understand if you can be interested in such a game, because reading this can be really quite amazing one. So I think that it's really quite interesting. You can find a lot of information, I think, inside to understand better how to play it. Here we have a sort of description of a campaign about the Aeronautica Imperialis, so how evolve the campaign itself. It can be really quite interesting. For example, this imaging it's not quite new. It comes from Foger book about the Aeronautica Imperialis, and also in old Apocalypse this these squadrons can be recognized there. But anyway, it's really quite interesting to understand the composition of the squad and how to develop the campaign about the Aeronautica Imperialis. So there are quite a lot of information that I suggest you to read, even if you're not interested to the campaign itself or the Aeronautica Imperialis, because there are a lot of information also about the pilots and so on that can be also some inspiration for your painting, your models, or so on. Here we have new rules about Necromunda, so quite a lot of information again, and quite a lot of options that you can develop your games about Necromunda. You can see there are really quite a lot of information, rules and scenarios that you can use. And here we have the part about inside the studio with some details, some information, some future things that we'll find in the next White Dwarf. So quite a lot of interesting things that we can find. And here we can find the better detailed alternative imaging that we can have as cover. This is if you subscribe to the White Dwarf, so from the Game Social Process, so really quite interesting in this way. And here we have instead this that it's related about an old new army that will be released soon, probably the next month, and it's so the Inquisition and the Sisters of Battle, and I think that it's really quite an amazing film. We have yet seen on Warhammer Community some anticipations about the models and so on. So quite a lot of interesting things. Anyway, this is related mainly to the Inquisition, so I think that it will not be direct the Sisters of Battle, that maybe they will be released in December. I don't know exactly when they will be released, because there are a lot of things that has been to be released quite soon, and in November there are also the Ossiarchs Bone Reapers, so an army from Age of Sigmar, and I think that it will be dedicated to it, so it will be in December, the Sisters, but anyway it's probably also in November, because can be maybe the pre-orders that are about, I don't know exactly, but I think that this is can be really quite interesting reading, because having the Inquisition with a sort of rules, as we have seen in this itself by Darth, about the different options that can have, the Slaanesh one or the Sisters of Silence ones, can be really quite amazing, and there are official rules, so really quite amazing, even if I don't like that they are only in the White Dwarf, because if you don't have the White Dwarf you have problems to gain back the rules after that the White Dwarf is out of production. So I think that quite soon there will be a sort of manual also that gain all these releases in the same place and sold about. So I think that this is really quite an amazing White Dwarf, because there is the Slaanesh part, the System of Science, the painting guides that has been included, for the ones that plays the Necromunda and the Blackstone Fortress as the Kill Team, there are quite a lot of new rules and so on. There is really quite a lot of things inside. I think that there are quite really a lot. Also the part about the Azirs, for example, because if you go to see the images of the models themselves that has been put, you have a lot of inspiration about the models that you can create. Also the Golden Demon part is supreme, because you can find really a lot of different inspirations. The Angelo models, the Angelo diorama, can be really quite amazing, because you can even take inspiration of only a part of that model and you can really create a lot of different things, or you can go to see the other ones and create something that it suits you. So quite a lot of ways to use this White Dwarf, because there are quite a lot of information. I think that it's one of the best of the White Dwarfs of this year, so really quite amazing. So from Dino Mode, it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video, or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.